I don't know if he's number one, because there's some great quarterbacks in this portal as well.
Yeah, well, speaking of guys who've played a lot of football, Will Rogers has played a lot of football, and he is at the portal. Last week, we saw a lot of grad transfers go in. It sounds like our Chris Hummer, who we're welcoming on the show now, has a crystal ball pick for Rogers. What you got, Chris?
Yeah, second all-time leading passer in SEC history is on the move, and I think he's going to have a really nice fit at Washington if he were to land there. We're hearing pretty good things about where Washington sits with Will Rogers. He's been a name linked to Washington for quite a while, probably before he even entered the portal. That's how it works in this era of college football. And I think the Huskies are in excellent shape to land him. I do expect the Huskies to at least check in on guys like Cameron Ward as well. But I would say right now, the heavy favorite for Washington is Will Rogers to take over from Michael Penix, and he would be an excellent bridge quarterback after Michael Penix departs the program. Plug-and-play starter, somebody who's thrown for a ton of yardage in his career and would be a great fit in that system.
I know Washington fans are gearing up for a spot in the college football playoff, but they do have to look ahead to what life after Michael Penix looks like. Chris saying that it's a great bridge quarterback. What are your thoughts, Coop?
Yeah, I think he used the right word there, right? Huff talked about Austin Mack a little bit earlier in the show from Folsom, a guy that reclassified a year up. He should be a senior in high school, but quite honestly, if he would have stayed in that class, he could have had a chance to be a five-star. He's got all the clay in the world, so I don't think he's ready yet. But if you bring a guy in like Will Rogers, who, let's face it, he's got to rejuvenate his career, his image. Last year under Zach Arnett, obviously not the start that they wanted. They go 4-8. A lot of things changing there in Stark Vegas. Now he gets to go out to Washington. Who else would you want to play for if you're a quarterback right now than Kalen DeBoer, right? What they're doing in Seattle. Michael Penix Jr., the job that he's done there. You think about those receivers, Odunze, McMillan, Jalen Polk, they'll probably all be gone, but they got guys like Jeremy Bernard that they're really excited about. So I like this fit. And, you know, the other thing about this, how about Dylan Johnson? He had a breakout game in the Pac-12 championship. That was a guy that transferred from Mississippi State as well. So we might be seeing a little bit of Mississippi State to Washington pipeline right now. I'm sure those guys had some conversations, but I really like this move for both parties. I think it makes sense in the short term and the long term as well.
There's a saying that has been going on a long time that players win games and coaches lose them. I do think in the situation of quarterback development, guys that get an opportunity to play for Kalen DeBoer are doing themselves a tremendous service. Quarterbacks should be lined up down the hallway to play for this guy. He's long been an offensive coach with a lot of versatility in his scheme. Has won with a lot of different types of quarterbacks. Back in the day when he was an NAI head coach in Iowa, winning NAI national championships, high school coaches from around the country were going in there trying to learn offense from Kalen DeBoer. So if this is in fact a fit, it's a tremendous fit because nobody can fix your game better than the quarterback doctor at Washington.
Yeah, you talk about experience. Threw for over 12,000 yards at Mississippi State, 94 touchdowns. He has certainly played a lot of football and a lot of good football. So we've had a few of these transfer portal windows, and we've seen the hits that have happened and the misses that have happened, especially at the quarterback position. I'll say that 2021 class, Michael Penix in particular, Bo Nix, two guys, sure, are hits, I would call them. This year, let's project a little bit. Coop, who do you think's going to be the big hit?
I'm going to go with Cam Ward, and this is a guy that I love. I think he's kind of a polarizing quarterback prospect. I think if you talk to NFL scouts, this guy could go anywhere from, if he plays well, maybe he's a day one guy if he comes back, right? I think right now he'd probably be late day two, maybe even early day three. But I love this guy, his ability. All you have to do is turn on the tape against Oregon where he threw for over 300 yards. He's not known as a runner, but he's really athletic in the pocket. Andrew Ivins and I talked about it. He kind of reminds me a little bit. We don't typically do this. Kind of reminds me of DJ Lagway, the five-star committed to Florida. Big body, functional in the pocket, can move, can extend plays. I love his creativity as a passer. If you plug and play him somewhere like Oregon, somewhere like Ohio State, where they have those guys on the perimeter, this is a guy that really kind of gets you excited. I think can really benefit coming back to school. I know he's kind of entertaining the NFL draft as well, but this is a guy that can really boost his stock. He needs to be really careful and really particular about where he's going to play at the next level because he's got a great opportunity if he finds the right spot.
The guy that I'm really intrigued about that I think is going to do a tremendous job, especially if he's going where everybody says he's going, is Duke quarterback Riley Leonard. When I got a chance to watch him this season, he didn't always have the consistency passing the ball, but he did show something that I think is totally vital when you're playing that position. He had competitive greatness. He had toughness. He had the willingness and the ability to go out and compete. And I think that's a trait that's missing in a lot of young football players. And so if he's going and he's getting with the right people in the right system, I expect for him to do tremendous things this season.
Yeah, there's a few thousand, I think, crystal balls out on Riley Leonard to end up at Notre Dame. Cam Ward, though, the comparison that our Clint Brewster, who's part of our Portal Rankings team, had for him was P.J. Walker, who had some good minutes in the NFL. So that would be an interesting comparison there. I hate to do this, guys, but they're not always hits. There's some guys that are potential misses. So who that maybe we're talking about a lot, that we're getting really excited about if he ends up not going to the right place, who's a potential miss in this quarterback market?
I'm pretty interested what happens with Tyler Van Dyke. Played a lot of ball at Miami, and this is a guy that's kind of been up and down. It's been, I would say, a little bit of a roller coaster for him in terms of production. I think the Shannon Dawson marriage at times under Mario Cristobal was a little bit of up and down there as well. I keep saying up and down because it's been a lack of consistency, but I think this is a guy that is going to have to find the right place that fits him schematically. He is a pocket passer. He's not the type of guy you move the pocket for. He's not the type of guy that's going to wow you with athleticism. But if you're looking for an offense that has the right play caller, has the right protection, and has the right playmakers, I think Tyler Van Dyke can really thrive within that structure. So for him, it's going to be finding a place that really kind of has all those components already in place. If not, we could really kind of see what we saw in Miami, which was a little bit of a mixed bag performance. But this is a guy that I'm really kind of fascinated to see where he ends up.
The guy in that category for me is going to be Ohio State transfer Kyle McCord. For years, we have seen Ohio State go after one quarterback after the next with assembly line type production. When Kyle McCord got in there this year, they just couldn't seem to get going offensively, despite having Marvin Harrison, the best receiver in the game, young stars like Carnell Tate, and a great running game, and they just could not get going offensively. Even though their only loss was to Michigan, and that's the one that matters, they struggled offensively throughout the season getting going, and I think that there are questions around Kyle McCord's dedication and his toughness that came out of Columbus, and Ryan Day did not commit to him starting the bowl game without having somebody else necessarily on the roster who's been able to beat him out to this point. I think where he goes is key, but I also think when it appears that your school gave up on you, it appears like Ohio State gave up on this kid, his ability to check back in mentally is going to be key for what he does next. And so all eyes are going to be on him.
Yeah, and we can guess all we want, but ultimately we will not know until we find out where they end up and see how they do.
41 of the 69 Power 5 teams this year had a transfer portal starting quarterback. So there's lots of variance here. But Huff, I'll start with you. Who do you think your hit, or who is your hit for 2023 quarterback?
Yeah, I'm going to take the easy answer. I'm going to go Kyle McCord. He's being judged against C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, Cardale Jones, J.T. Barrett, all those quarterbacks before him. He went 11-1 this year as a starter. Had his team within one more touchdown drive of potentially going to the playoffs, potentially being the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. This is a good quarterback. He was a top 50 guy nationally. Sometimes a change of scenery is all a quarterback needs. We saw it with the 3 Heisman finalists this year. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Sometimes you just need to be in a place where they appreciate you and you're not being judged against your predecessors. I think Kyle McCord is going to be a hit wherever he ends up.
Quick follow-up for you. This comes after Ryan Day said Sunday he wouldn't really commit to a starter for that bowl game against Mizzou. Which one do you think kind of came first here? The McCord decision, or was it related to Day's non-committal to him?
I'm guessing it was probably the latter. I'm thinking when he heard that news, that may be another quarterback in play, another portal quarterback. Maybe Devin Brown is the guy moving forward. He had 12 games this year to be the starter, didn't. So maybe there's another quarterback there. I got to think that precipitated this move, and that's why Kyle McCord went into the portal. Now knowing that it's not his job guaranteed moving forward, time for him to go find a place where it will be his job guaranteed moving forward.
I've been sitting on this a little bit long, and I got to raise up a little bit. Now, Ryan Day has to really take a really hard look at himself and understand that it's easy to always pass the buck. And I think that Kyle McCord is a young man that's getting thrown under the bus for losing to 2 assistants as a head coach, right? So at the end of the day, when you look at it, what did Kyle McCord really do that bad in a season other than the same thing Ryan Day hasn't done, beat Michigan? Is Ryan Day getting shut out of there? No. So I agree with you. This young man has a tremendous future ahead of him. and a chance to be good, as long as he gets around someone that can unlock him as a quarterback. Because there's skill sets there that you like. But for just a young guy going out there and throwing the ball around, it takes time and development. And right now we're in a microwave society of head coaches, quarterback coaches, and gurus of the world of understanding that these young kids are going to take some time to get really good. And again, you're in Ohio State. It's either national championship or bust. And we understand that they've been busting for a while. So I do agree with you.
Right, over 3,100 passing yards, a 24 touchdown to 6 INT ratio. Pretty good for McCord. We'll see what greener pastures he finds. But Smoke, your hit for this upcoming.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go with Will Rogers. Because the number one thing that you want to look at whenever you're looking at a quarterback is accuracy, his ability to anticipate and make open window throws. And this guy's thrown over for 12,000 yards. So you get him in a system that he's feel comfortable in, has some good players around him, a la Michael Penix, Bo Nix. You see a guy like this will go to a team and he'll be somewhere in the top 12 next year in terms of playoff. So this guy here can throw an accurate football, short to intermediate passing game, understand blitz concepts, understand coverage. He's seen everything, and he's had one of the better teachers in terms of throwing the football. So this young man right here, Will Rogers, I'm with him. He gets somewhere, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, one of the most prolific passers in SEC history. Will be really cool to see what he does on the West Coast if those crystal balls to Washington end up true. Let's do our misses as well. Who are you projecting as a miss in this upcoming cycle, Huff?
I think it's going to be very fascinating to see where Blake Shapen ends up. Obviously, the last 2 years at Baylor, the offense has not been good. I mean, you could say that during the entirety of Dave Aranda's time there, the offense hasn't been great, but it really dropped off a cliff these last 2 years. It was just 2 years ago that they won the Sugar Bowl based on the back of their defense, but it's not been pretty offensively, and sometimes when you're rattled, it's one thing to be Kyle McCord 11-1, taking the fall for losing to Michigan, going to change of scenery. It's another thing when you're a big reason why the offense has struggled. A, it's going to limit your market of where you're going to end up, but B, it's got to have destroyed the confidence there. So I think wherever he ends up, it could be a very tough situation for him and for whatever school he ends up at, because there just has not been a lot of sizzle to his game the last couple of years since he's been the starter at Baylor.
And I'm gonna go in my Will category, Will Howard. When you look at him, you go back to the Texas game, there's a lot that you like. Right? He played a huge game, but a lot of those passes, that were short passes, the guys picked up a chunk of yards. But then you go back in and just study all of his throws, and you see some inaccuracies. You see some ability to not anticipate and throw open window throws. And there's a lot of average to his game that when you're in a quarterback market, you drive those average up to above average. So this is the guy that you can go in on and say he's going to be the one, but understand that there's not enough evidence out there that says he can be a surefire number one to catapult your program into that top 10-win season, because average does not really get it done the majority of the time. Average stays average at the end of the day.
How quickly things changed. Just a couple years ago, led K-State to the Big 12 title. Now he's looking for a new home. All right, thanks, guys. Emily, let's go back to you in Studio A.
All right, well, a quarterback that Notre Dame fans certainly hope is not a miss if he does end up with their program is Riley Leonard. We mentioned the crystal balls that are for him. Let's tell you a little bit more about the quarterback and just the skill that he could potentially be bringing, because we saw some real highs from him this year, but we also saw some lows. I mean, he was dealing with an ankle injury for half the season, only played in 6 games. So, Cooper, how would you evaluate his 2023?
He's a fan favorite, I think, of a lot of NFL scouts. They love the clay. I mean, he is a big kid, 6'4", 212 pounds, originally from Fairhope, Alabama, can do a lot of different things. But what I like about him the most, what stood out the most on tape, his legs. He is a very dynamic athlete, and I think this is a guy that you can really kind of scheme into the offense, especially on the ground. I think as a passer, he left a little bit to be desired, right? We keep talking about fit. I think that's really important for him, especially as he looks to find a place where he can continue to develop and boost his NFL draft stock. The biggest thing for him going forward, he's got to be more accurate with the football. He's got to have better command and make better decisions. If he does that, then this is going to be a guy that a lot of people are going to be talking about as a potential day 1, maybe day 2 NFL draft choice the next year. So whether it's Notre Dame, whether it's somewhere else, this is a guy that has the goods, but there is a little bit of potential that has to materialize over the next season for him to reach his full ceiling.
I love him. I love him as an athlete. I love him as a player. I love his toughness. He does, like Coop said, have to improve on his ability to complete passes throwing the football. But I think a good offseason and getting indoctrinated into a new system is going to help his development with that. But he's a dual threat guy, can run on zone read, power read schemes as well. He can drop it and go, and he can make throws on the run and mess up the defense's run fits. I like the kid. I think he's got a lot of things that you can work with to help you have a championship football team.
Sounds like the key word is upside here.
Yeah, and I'll add this. The thing that I would keep an eye out on, I don't know if it's done yet to Notre Dame. It seems to be that way, 100% of the crystal ball right there. I'm not going to go against our experts in that field. But what does Notre Dame have at receiver? New receivers coach Mike Brown comes over from Wisconsin. Chancey Stuckey out of there out of 2 years. Rico Flores is in the portal. Braylon James is in the portal. We don't know what they have on the perimeter, right? If you're a guy like Riley Leonard and you're auditioning for the NFL, that has to come into the picture a little bit. How about a team like Auburn? I think they make sense. It's a hometown team. He's from the state of Alabama. And you think about high school, how do you really tie it into the transfer portal? How about Cam Coleman, one of the best receivers, 5-star, right? Just flipped from Texas A&M along with Perry Thompson as well. So big-bodied receivers, they make their quarterback look good. I know they're young, but I think that really has to factor in to Riley Leonard's decision. We'll see what happens with him.
Go ahead.
You know, I don't know if he's necessarily going to go to Notre Dame. I know we've crystal balled that, but he hasn't come out and said that. But one thing I do agree with you with, if you're going to have him, you got to have some wide receivers to go along with them. And Notre Dame needs some improvement in that area as well. But they did make a change at the receiver coach. So changes like that typically come with recruits that follow. So it could be a major improvement in that receiver room at Notre Dame.
And when Riley Leonard hit the portal, he put a do not contact tag on him, which made you think that he already has an idea of where he's going.